Hello and welcome back to CinemaBurger, where I bring you movie reviews from a different perspective. Today we're here to talk about probably the biggest movie I have reviewed on video, and that is Wonder Woman 1984. Warning, this review will contain spoilers. If you want to watch the movie and don't want the plot details told to you before watching it, please wait till after watching to see this review. If you don't care about the spoilers or whatever, then continue. Just to give a little perspective of Wonder Woman 1984 and the DC Extended Universe, let's just go back a few years. So Man of Steel came out in 2013, and then a few years later it was announced that it was going to be Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice, which would bring in more DC characters to start a cinematic universe just like Marvel did. Now, when Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice came out, it was met with bad reviews and audiences didn't like it that much either. And then the Suicide Squad came out later that year in 2016 and also was not well received. So then in 2017 we had the first Wonder Woman, and it was, so far for the DCEU, it was the first positively reviewed movie, and audiences enjoyed it as well. Even though when you break it down, it's essentially Captain America, the first Avenger, right down to a character named Steve dying in a plane crash played by an actor named Chris. So after that, Justice League came out after talks of course correction, trying to make it a little more lighthearted, the DCEU. And what we got was not really a full movie. It seemed like earlier drafts of Justice League were left in, and also when Zack Snyder stepped down from finishing Justice League due to personal reasons, Joss Whedon stepped in to finish the movie, and you can tell where Joss Whedon had his hands and where Zack Snyder stayed. So Justice League came out and it was also not well liked, and the DCEU was just a mess. But then there was a couple of other good DC movies that came out, or at least passable ones. We got Aquaman, which was the highest grossing DC movie at the time. It was considered fun and enjoyable. We got Shazam, which was also fun and actually like a little more lighthearted. And we also got Harley Quinn Birds of Prey, which was well done. So after these movies, maybe they thought, oh, the DC movies are on the right track now. And then Wonder Woman 1984 came out. Wonder Woman 84 once again stars Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, Chris Pine as Steve Trevor, Patty Jenkins returns to direct and also wrote this movie, and Pedro Pascal plays the villain Maxwell Lord, and Kristen Wiig plays Barbara Minerva, aka the Cheetah. So the opening scene is a flashback, and it's Wonder Woman as a child on Themyscira, and we're shown like a obstacle course / race. It's whoever wins gets this golden armor to be like the Ultimate Warrior, but not the Wonder Woman armor. This is a different armor or something. Oh, we're shown all the Amazons climbing on things, riding horses. They have to shoot these arrows into colored canisters to let them know their progress. And 10-year-old Wonder Woman, or Diana Prince, is losing, so she takes a shortcut but doesn't win because she didn't shoot the correct canisters to show her progress. So as she's about to technically get first place, the trainer for all the Amazons pulls her back, causing her to lose, saying that you weren't ready to win because you weren't ready to accept the truth or something. Now this is a vague attempt, this flashback scene in the beginning, to tie into the overall theme of the movie later on, but it's a poor attempt at that. But we'll get into that later. So we flash forward to 1984. It's in Washington, D.C., and Diana Prince has been living here, and apparently she's been suiting up as Wonder Woman again, trying to stop crimes and stuff like that for the last couple of months. So apparently, after World War One, she came back out of hiding, but still nobody saw it. Any evidence of Wonder Woman in 2016 and before that, when Bruce Wayne says that the only photo he could find was the World War One photo. So she stops a bank robbery and she's flipping around and using her lasso and stuff like that, and it's a okay action scene. But this is the best action scene you're gonna get of the movie, and the only action you're gonna get for at least another hour. And this movie is 2.5 hours long, by the way. So after the bank robbery, we see Diana Prince. She works in antiquities and archaeology and finding rare artifacts and things like that. So apparently, the robbery from earlier, the store was a front for black market items, and one of these items is something called the Dream Stone. It's a stone that supposedly grants the user wishes. So we meet Barbara Minerva, played by Kristen Wiig, and already you can tell this is going to be the repressed character, nerdy, ignored character who all of a sudden will get a slight bit of power and become pretty and noticeable just because of a makeover. And that cliche has been done to death, especially in 80s movies. Also, there's really no reason why this movie needs to take place in 1984. Maybe the director liked the aesthetic of 1984 and the style and everything, but there's no other reason for it to take place there. Especially because even though this is a sequel to the first Wonder Woman, which took place in 1917, it is still technically a prequel to Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice, Justice League, which Wonder Woman has appeared in Batman vs. Superman and Justice League, so anything that happens in this movie is really irrelevant because she can't stray too far from her character traits that she has in the future. So she's not really going to have any change of character or arc in this movie. So in a scene where people are walking on the street, we zoom in on a TV and it's Maxwell Lord. He started an oil business for the people, by the people, and his whole theme is if you can dream it, you can do it, or something like that. And he's played by Pedro Pascal. Maxwell Lord is the character, and he's a very 80s looking person with the big business suit and the hair. And let me just say something immediately. Pedro Pascal is the best part of this movie, and he is the only one really like trying to act. Like everyone else is phoning it in. And all of the scenes with Maxwell Lord are the best part. In fact, he is featured in this movie more than Wonder Woman in a movie called Wonder Woman 1984. Explain that one. So we get a little backstory on Maxwell Lord. He bought land for oil reserves, but he's then been coming up dry. He also has a son with a wife who they are not together now, and he wants to impress his son and make his son proud of him. So that's going to be his theme for the movie. So Barbara starts working at the place where Diana Prince works, and they meet. And Barbara is already like impressed by Diana because she's beautiful and powerful and all that stuff. Now they go out to lunch one time where they kind of connect. And then later on when the Dreamstone gets brought in for study, Barbara wishes that with the stone, well, first a character, a random scientist, holds the stone after they reveal what it can do, and he says, "Oh, I wish I could have a cup of coffee right now." And then all of a sudden another scientist walks in with 2 cups of coffee saying, "Oh, I have an extra one, who wants it?" So both Barbara and Diana look at each other, thinking about it, and Barbara asks Diana, "Oh, what would you wish for?" And And Diana says, "Oh, one thing only." Now later on, Barbara is holding the Dreamstone and wishes to be powerful and strong and sexy like Diana, not knowing that Diana Prince is actually Wonder Woman, even though Wonder Woman doesn't wear a mask, and it would be incredibly easy to tell that they are the same person. It's not like the whole Clark Kent wears glasses, Superman does not thing. They're literally, she's just wearing a tiara and a skimpy outfit. Like, there's a way you can tell that it's Diana Prince. So Diana also holds the stone at one point. She doesn't say her wish out loud, but she wishes, obviously, for Steve Trevor to come back to life. So now the next morning, Barbara Minerva wakes up, and all of a sudden, without realizing it, she's wearing like Spanx or like spandex underneath her clothes that she went to sleep in. So I guess the Dreamstone put new clothes on her at night or something, which is a little weird. And then all of a sudden, she has better balance and heels. In the beginning, she stumbled a lot, and people are starting to notice her more. Now, also, Wonder Woman 1984 was originally supposed to come out in June of 2020. Because of COVID, it got pushed back multiple times, and ultimately got a Christmas release date, and Warner Brothers and HBO Max at the last moment decided to release it simultaneously in theaters and on HBO Max the same day. So there was extra time to, I guess, work on this movie, but every time you see Kristen Wiig's character, she has glasses on. You can see green screen in the reflection of her glasses. This is a multi-million-dollar movie. You should have checked these things. Like, did nobody edit this movie? Like, that's an easily spotted thing. So also, the next morning, you see a random hand in Wonder Woman's apartment, and Diana Prince had saved Steve Trevor's watch, and all of a sudden we see a hand grab it. So while out in public, a guy comes up to Diana Prince and says, "It's me." She says something that Steve Trevor said years ago. Now this guy kind of looks like Steve Trevor, but not really. And all of a sudden the camera zooms around, and you see what Diana sees, and it's Steve Trevor now. Chris Pine is back. So apparently Steve Trevor is inhabiting some random guy's body. Now only Diana Prince can see that it's Steve Trevor. Everyone else just sees the person that is actually there, whose body he's inhabiting, including Steve Trevor. So that's how they were able to bring Steve Trevor back, but clearly he's going to die again, because once again, he's not around in 2016 for Batman vs. Superman or Justice League, so he's going to have to die again, obviously. So that, like I said, they shot themselves in the foot by making this movie take place in 1984. So there's a lot of montages of Steve Trevor and Diana Prince, like, getting back together and, like, talking. There's a montage of Steve Trevor trying on different 80s outfits, which is kind of funny. It's not horrible. And while this is happening, we go back to Maxwell Lord. He has appeared at Diana Prince's place of work, wanting to get the Dreamstone, because he knows he researched the Dreamstone because he had a plan all along. Now, he starts talking to Barbara Minerva to sweet talk her because she has the stone on her desk, and he basically, like, takes the stone from her after they have sex. So what do you think Maxwell Lord's first wish is? Actually, this is pretty clever what he does. He wishes to become the Dreamstone because when you make a wish with the Dreamstone, you have to give up your most valuable possession, whatever that may be. So in becoming the Dreamstone, Maxwell Lord can grant other people's wishes, but take what he wants from them in return, therefore granting him infinite wishes. So this is a clever way of getting around the one wish idea with the Dreamstone. And for a while they focus on him trying to get oil and have his reserves spring oil. When that happens, his secretary wishes, he has his secretary wish for more help, and all of a sudden just people come from all over the place wanting jobs because it's like mind control in a way, this Dreamstone. Now, throughout the movie, Diana Prince is losing her powers because her strength, I guess, was her most valued possession. So as her and Steve Trevor try to figure out what's going on in the world, because Maxwell Lord goes to Saudi Arabia to try to get oil from a sheik, because this movie is very racist in the terms of making Arabs only be thinking about oil and things like that. So like I said, Maxwell Lord's character is the best part of this movie. It's almost like he's in another movie altogether, because his son is sad that they don't see each other a lot, and he's trying to be successful, so he's success in the eyes of his son. Now, if this wasn't related to any DC comic and just a movie about a guy like finding this magic stone to become successful, like that would be an interesting movie. This is almost like the Maxwell Lord movie featuring Wonder Woman. Now, as Maxwell Lord grants more people's wishes and gets things in return, it starts to draw the attention of Diana Prince and Steve Trevor, so they start to investigate what's going on. So they break into Maxwell Lord's place of business, and at this point, Wonder Woman has the first time where her strength is starting to go away, so she has trouble breaking a door lock, but she's able to get in nonetheless. So they figure out that Maxwell Lord is going to Egypt to talk to the Saudi prince or something to get oil, so they have to get there somehow. So at one point they go to the Smithsonian and they show Steve Trevor all the planes and stuff and modern technology, because Steve Trevor has been dead for at least 63 years or so, and he says when he first comes back to life, he remembers dying and then being somewhere and then coming back to life in this random guy's body. So I guess he remembers being dead. But when they get in a plane at the Smithsonian in the outside where they're on display, first of all, he already knows how to fly a plane, a modern plane. Like, you've been dead for 63 years. Planes are a lot different. Like, you wouldn't know how to fly a plane. And also, the plane already has fuel in it. Like, why would a plane on display in a museum have fuel in it? Especially enough fuel to get to Egypt, which is many, many miles away from Washington, D.C. So while escaping in the plane, the guards at the Smithsonian try to stop them, and this time it's not Ben Stiller from Night at the Museum, but it should have been. So Diana Prince explains to Steve Trevor about radar and that they can see you or track you even though without seeing you. So all of a sudden Diana Prince says that, oh, I've been experimenting about trying to make things invisible. I tried it for 50 years and the only thing I could do was make a cup disappear. So she is able to turn the jet invisible, and this is of course referencing Wonder Woman's invisible jet from the comics and cartoons. And as they're flying, all of a sudden, they see fireworks, and Diana Prince is like, oh, it's the 4th of July. I'm like, how do you forget it's the 4th of July? Also, there would be some sort of decorations up. Or something, or other notice of it. Alright, so let's go back to Barbara Minerva. In the beginning of the movie, she was walking home after having lunch with Diana Prince, and she gets almost molested by a drunk guy, and Diana comes to save her. So now that she has powers, Barbara's starting to get super strength because she wished to be like Diana Prince, not knowing she's Wonder Woman. So the same guy stops her again. Now she has powers, so she kind of like beats him up a lot and almost kills him. So I guess the only like downside to getting powers is that you're like evil, and I guess by evil that means you stop an attacker on you. Like, some people were saying that this movie is like has girl power and is like pro-feminist, but the two prominent female characters in the movie, one of them wishes for her dead boyfriend to come back to life and at the same time loses her strength, And the other one wishes for strength, but loses her most prized possession, which is apparently her good heart. So this is saying that women can either have strength or a relationship, and they can't have both. How is that feminist? So Barbara helps Diana Prince and Steve Trevor figure out what this dream stone is and the powers of it. So Barbara looks up some information on it, and Diana finds that the dream stone itself was wrapped in some sort of metal band. Now that metal band had some writing on it in the language of the gods, and it turns out that that band is what made the stone powerful. So they have to figure out which god gave this stone the power. Now you would think, oh, are they going to fight another god at the end of the movie as they figure out who it is? You'd think so, but they don't. So it turns out later on they find out that it was from a Mayan god. They go to a store owned by a Mayan person in a very also racist scene. Now they find out that it's from a Mayan god of lies or something, so when you make a wish it has consequences, kind of like the monkey's paw. And it said it destroyed the Mayan civilization. So basically they're saying the Mayan civilization made greedy wishes with this stone and destroyed themselves, and not when the Europeans massacred them and slaughtered them, so that's really racist. So at one point, when Steve Trevor and Diana Prince are in Egypt, they happen to just see Maxwell Lord driving in a car on the highway in the middle of the desert. What are the odds of that? Apparently, a lot. So here is the next fight scene in the movie, and this is over an hour into the movie, a 2.5-hour movie about Wonder Woman, which has only featured one action scene with Wonder Woman in it. Throughout the movie, she uses her whip, her lasso a lot, and apparently her lasso, instead of just making people tell the truth, it can also show people visions of the truth, or something stupid. So, at one point, Wonder Woman shows Steve Trevor, there's this golden armor, it's from the beginning of the movie. It was given to a powerful Amazon named Astria. Now, she volunteered to stay behind and fight off the men right before the Amazons escaped to Themyscira. So she sacrificed herself, this Amazonian Astria, but later on I guess Diana found the armor. So obviously she's going to use it later on because you see in the trailer she wears this golden armor. So Wonder Woman suits up to fight Maxwell Lord's guards and stuff like that, and the scenes of her using the whip, the effects are so bad it looks like hand-drawn animation of the whip. There are times where she uses the whip to catch bullets and throw them at people and catch missiles. And also you can barely see like Wonder Woman in the scenes. It's weird. Now, as Barbara Minerva is getting powers, she goes to like a gym to experiment, like with her strength, and she's lifting a giant barbell, and they show her from the legs down, and you can clearly tell it's the male like stunt double because the legs are hairy and like bigger when they cut back to her, so that's just a really bad continuity error as well, but it's extremely noticeable. It's almost like in the Halle Berry Catwoman movie during the basketball scene when the stunt double is clearly a man because you can see the guy's arms and legs. So as Maxwell Lord has been trying to get oil in other places, he's been granting people's wish and getting what he wants in return. Now, every time he grants someone's wish, his nose starts to bleed or he gets a headache, so doing this is physically killing him. And he realizes that granting people's wishes one at a time is too slow and it's going to kill him, so he wants to find a way to grant millions of people's wishes at once. So he goes to the president and he meets Reagan, and he asks Reagan if there's some sort of satellite system or something where he can talk to everyone on TV at once, and he explains there's this particle beam technology, the same thing of his Star Wars like plan, where he can like talk to millions of people at once over broadcast. So he asks the president what he wants, and because of events happening in like Egypt, like border walls showed up again, so a lot of Saudis and Arabs are like claiming land that they owned years ago, and the Russians were supporting him. So this is also reigniting the Cold War. So the president wishes he had more nuclear missiles, and they just pop up. So the world is getting hectic because of all the wishes that Maxwell Lord is granting. And like I said, though, all the scenes with Maxwell Lord are the best part. Pedro Pascal is emoting and acting really, like, dramatically while everyone else is not. And it's extremely noticeable, and I wish this movie was just about Maxwell Lord. Alright, so back to Diana Prince and Steve Trevor. They figure out from the Mayan person that, along with Barbara Minerva. Now, throughout the movie, also, Barbara has been dressing more and more like a cheetah for seemingly no reason. So they discover that the only way to undo all the chaos from the wishes is to either renounce the wish that you made or destroy the stone. So they figure out that Maxwell Lord became the stone, so they would either have to destroy Maxwell Lord or renounce their wishes. Now, Diana doesn't want to do that because it would mean Steve Trevor dies again, but she would get her strength back, and even Steve Trevor's like, renounce this wish, like, there'll be other people and there's other men in the world. But Barbara Minerva also doesn't want to renounce her wish because she's attractive now and strong and powerful, and she doesn't want to give that up. So they all later on meet at the White House trying to stop Maxwell Lord. And there's another fight between Barbara and Wonder Woman. And Barbara easily defeats Wonder Woman because she's really, like, weak at this point. And Maxwell Lord goes to the place with all the satellites, I think it's NORAD, where he can broadcast all over the world and get people millions of wishes at once. So Barbara goes with Maxwell Lord. She jumps on the helicopter that he takes at the last minute. And it's almost, at this point, like, Maxwell Lord and Barbara is like the second time they're really talking again. Even though they met in the beginning and they clearly had sex. But it's almost like Maxwell Lord doesn't even remember Barbara. So he says, I'm feeling generous, what do you want? And she says, I want to be like nothing else, I want to be an apex predator. So you know what's going to come if you've seen the trailers. So Maxwell Lord gets to the place with all the satellites and he broadcasts all over the world like, if you want something, just wish for it. And all the things like that. Since it involves particles, this technology, it's technically like he's touching everyone in the world who wants a wish. So as he broadcasts all over the world, people make a lot of wishes. A lot of them wish for money, power. Some person wishes someone else would drop dead because they're like taking too long in line in like a coffee place or something. And they show a lot of Arabs and other people wishing for nuclear weapons and guns. So the world is just descending into chaos at this point. And now once again, this whole global event is happening. You think there would be mention of it in Batman vs. Superman or Justice League, that people would remember this, but once again, because this movie came out after the fact, but it's technically a prequel, that's where the continuity error happens again. Because they didn't think this movie through. So as Maxwell Lord is granting millions of people's wishes all over the world, he says, I take your strength and your power, so he's healing himself, and he also uses this to give Barbara Minerva her wish. So now Wonder Woman has to go stop Barbara and Maxwell Lord, so she goes to grab the golden armor, she gets to NORAD or wherever, and as she's about to break into the place where Maxwell Lord is, we see in the distance probably the worst looking CG effects. It's Kristen Wiig as the cheetah, and it's the worst looking thing ever. It's worse than the 2019 Cats movie, or 2018, whenever that movie came out. And it's your typical person fighting a CG character. Now, Wonder Woman says she doesn't want to kill, but when she tells Barbara to renounce her wish, oh, by the way, earlier she renounces her wish, so Steve Trevor dies again, and she gets her strength back. Now, oh yeah, also earlier in the movie, when they're in the plane going to Egypt, Diana talks about how she wants to like fly, and Steve Trevor explains flying in a plane, but when she goes back, all of a sudden she uses her lasso to latch onto a plane, and then she seemingly starts to glide, and all of a sudden she just learns how to fly out of nowhere. And once again, she never does this in Batman vs. Superman or Justice League because everything has to be the same, so all these new powers and things she has in this movie you'll never see again. Because that's what happens when you make a sequel to a movie that takes place before three other movies in an interconnected movie universe. So Wonder Woman fights the cheetah. She basically electrocutes her in the water after telling her to renounce her wish, and she says no after a fight. So she's seemingly dead or whatever. So then she goes into the place and tries to lasso Maxwell Lord. She can't because there's like some wind force around him, and now he's already like full blown crazy at this point. He's has like all the power in the world. Wonder Woman is like pushed back against the wall, and she's making some speech about truth, and this is where the opening scene as her as a kid kind of vaguely ties in, but it's a really poor attempt. So she's talking about like know your truth and things like that. And it's revealed that she's lassoed Maxwell Lord's leg, and that everyone around the world who can see Maxwell Lord can now see their truths, and everyone simultaneously like renounces their wishes, including Barbara Minerva and things like that. Now, I don't know how Wonder Woman was able to lasso his leg because she just tried a few times before and wasn't able to because of like the windstorm or whatever. So apparently she just did it all of a sudden. They don't explain how that if she was able to do that. So Maxwell Lord also, you see a flashback of him as a kid. He was growing up poor. He had abusive parents, and he wanted to start up a business and become powerful. And also, like, his son is missing at this point, and he wants to save his son. So of course he renounces his wish too. Also at the same time, nuclear weapons have been launched all over the world, almost ending the world, and they all disappear because Maxwell Lord renounced his wish. Now he goes to find his son at the end, and he apologizes that, oh, I've not been a good person, but I'm going to be better for you now. And I'm just thinking, like, oh, you're going to go to jail forever now for almost destroying the world. But they never show anything like that. They just show him reuniting with his son. And now at the end, Wonder Woman is still working at her job. She's outside, and it's like a holiday time, and she's watching children like play and stuff. And she looks over, and it's the guy that Steve Trevor was inhabiting when he was alive again, and they have a nice conversation, and he's still wearing an outfit that Steve Trevor had tried on before, and they just say like happy holidays, and he walks away. And then Wonder Woman looks up at the sky, because in the beginning she looked up at the sky and saw a plane, and it reminded her of Steve Trevor. So she looks up in the sky, and then it cuts to her Wonder Woman just flying again, and the movie ends. So now we do get one post or mid-credit scene, and it cuts to, we see something falling in like a bazaar market area, and a woman catches a child falling or a woman falling as something's about to fall on her, and we turn around and it's Linda Carter, who was Wonder Woman in the 1970s TV show. Now she is the character Astria that they talked about earlier, so apparently she survived the fight in the olden times against all like the Greek men or something. But that was a nice cameo having Linda Carter show up, and she is the established character Astria, so that was fun. So that's Wonder Woman 1984. So now once again, all of the new powers, she gets the invisible jet, she gets the ability, she learns how to fly, but that's never seen again because it has to be in continuity with Batman vs. Superman and Justice League. Wonder Woman learns almost nothing in this movie. She's the same as she started when the movie started than when she ended. She still misses Steve Trevor, and she still misses Steve Trevor at the end of the movie, so she has no character development. Barbara Minerva she ended up, like, renouncing her wish, but she didn't learn anything. She didn't go to jail for almost killing people either. While Maxwell Lord was the best part of the movie, and he's featured more in the movie than Wonder Woman, his character didn't go to jail at the end for almost destroying the world in nuclear war and, like taking over the president. And no one remembers the fact that Wonder Woman was fighting a world-ending event in DC in 1984, because Bruce Wayne said that you hid in the world for 100 years. So this movie is bad in terms of Wonder Woman. This is bad in terms of a plot in general. The movie is basically Maxwell Lord, the movie featuring Wonder Woman. There's like 2 action scenes. All the effects look really cheap. Now, I don't know when development first went into Wonder Woman 1984, but this movie still feels like course correction of the DC universe, just like Justice League did. The movie looked cheap. Wonder Woman is like barely acting. Like Gal Gadot is like phoning it in. Kristen Wiig is not believable as a villain or a like super villain. Pedro Pascal like is holding this movie together just like he's holding the Star Wars franchise together right now. His back must really hurt from holding it up. Like, I don't know what happened with this movie. Like, it looks like DC was doing well with like the first Wonder Woman, with Aquaman, Shazam, Birds of Prey, but I don't know what happened. I don't know if during the pandemic or anything there were rewrites, because it feels like elements of older scripts are in there. Once they discover that band around the Dreamstone, the origins, they never do anything more with that. They don't like go fight the Mayan god of lies or anything. It's nothing. Like, this movie was 2.5 hours, and there's maybe like 3 fight scenes in it. This is probably the worst like DC movie of the DC EU, and that's admitting that Batman vs. Superman and Suicide Squad were better than this movie. Now, I watched this movie twice. Once for the first time, and then to really, like, make sure I knew what... before I reviewed this movie. And I don't know... This was just terrible. Like, no character learns any lessons. There's no arc, except for Pedro Pascal, Maxwell Lord's character. I would give Wonder Woman 1984 a 1 out of 5 burgers, and that's because of Maxwell Lord and Pedro Pascal's performance in this movie. I wish this movie was only about him. Now, a few days ago, I'm recording this review on December 29th. They announced they're going to make a third Wonder Woman with Patty Jenkins again directing. Now, I would hope the third Wonder Woman will be a lot better than this, because there's no reason for this movie to exist. There was no reason for it to take place in 1984, because they crippled themselves, the writers, by setting it in the past, so they can't do anything too far out of the character's personality traits and characteristics, because she appears in future movies. So, I watched this movie at home on HBO Max. It's streaming on there. It was starting Christmas Day, streaming on there. It'll be on there for about 31 days. If I had gone to see this in theaters and paid for it, I would have been really pissed off. Alright, so that's my rant. I would not recommend Wonder Woman 1984. Like, it's 2.5 hours of your life that you're not going to get back. Like I said, if you really, really want to watch it, like, I can't stop you, but if anything, you'll like Pedro Pascal's performance, I think, because he's the best part. Alright. Alright, that's it for me today. I need a break after this movie has emotionally and physically drained me. Alright, I'm Scott Berger, and I'll see you next time.